can the Florida Panthers repeat what they did last season, and that is win a Stanley Cup? Because, frankly, this team really hasn't had major changes outside of some depth pieces and Brandon Montour, who is more than a depth piece. But you lose Brandon Montour, you lose a guy like Lundell, you lose... Okay, they still have Luostarinen. I don't know why they thought they got rid of him. However, though, you replace a couple depth guys with guys like Jesper Boquist, who got bought out by the Blue Jackets. You pick him up for cheap. And then same with Nate Schmidt, who got bought out by the Jets, and you also pick him up for cheap. And you didn't have a ton of money to spend. You had to fill those positions. I thought Zito did a very great job in doing that. And, of course, when you always have Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart, Verhage, and Sergei
Barkov
Bobrovsky, and
and
Barkov, too.
Barkov.
I don't know why I always forget about him. I'm sorry, Panthers fans. You're always going to have a chance to compete for a cup.
I think they could totally repeat next year. I don't think they lost a whole lot in free agency. You know, losing Brandon Montour does hurt, but they were never going to be able to pay him what Seattle gave him. But you know, he did what they wanted him to do. He helped them win a Stanley Cup, so no hard feelings there. I'm sure on either end. I think it's hard to replace that kind of production you're going to get out of him. I do like buying low on Nate Schmidt and Adam Boquist. Specifically Boquist, he's still a young player. He's still trying to find his footing in the league. You know, maybe Florida can help him get his career back on track. Things didn't work out for him in Columbus, but you know, I think their bottom six is a little weaker than last year. They did lose some really good fourth liners, some grinders. But, you know, looking at this top six in this defensive core, especially with the goaltending, I don't see a reason why they can't be the best team in the Eastern Conference again and, you know, go back to back winning Stanley Cups.
Listen, okay. You're right. Their bottom six did get a little bit weaker. But I do like the ad of Boquist and Tomas Nosek coming over from the Devils, I believe. And
Hmm.
the thing with this Panthers team is that they're always going to be feisty. They're always going to be grindy. It doesn't matter, like, who they acquire on their bottom six. Sure, maybe it didn't improve. Might have gotten a tad worse. But we're talking about one of the best coaches in the NHL in Maurice, and he is going to do everything in his power to make sure this bottom six and this entire team in general just perform how he wants them to. And he's not a coach to force his system on you. He's going to be like, okay, what does this player do best? We're going to put him in the best position to succeed. And that is why the Florida Panthers have been back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals champs. Eastern Conference champs, I guess. And they just ended up winning a Stanley Cup, in which they almost blew a 3-0 lead. However, though, of course, they ended up grinding it out in Game 7 to barely beat the Oilers. But again, Sergei Bobrovsky, the past couple seasons, has been great. If they can get that same production out of him, this team, like you said, will be the best team in the Eastern Conference. If I think there's probably two teams that are going to compete with the Panthers, and it's the Devils, who I've been harping on, and it's also the Boston Bruins, who I'm for some reason really high on. I legitimately don't
You're
know
not going to put
why.
the Rangers in that
I
conversation?
think the Rangers can, because they are coming off a President's Trophy season with the same roster, but I don't know. The Rangers are giving me regression vibes. Outside of Shesterkin, outside of Panarin and their top guns. Maybe I'm just being a generational D1 hater, but that's just what I'm
A
getting.
generational D1 hater? What the fuck does that mean?
I'm
You're a
basic,
Division 1 hater?
apparently.
I mean, with the Rangers, I think the main thing that lost them last year in the conference final was their top six just disappeared. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they didn't really start scoring until it was too late. You know, Igor Shesterkin is definitely a goalie good enough to overcome a lot of that stuff. But in a 7-game series against the Panthers, that's a tough ask
Oh,
for him
very.
to will you to 4 wins. I think if the Rangers like end up running it back and they can play the Panthers again in the conference final, looking at the Eastern Conference, there's only a couple teams in the East I think that would have a chance against the Panthers. I would say New York, maybe Carolina. Like
I
that's
do
really
like the
it.
Carolina pick. I do.
Yeah, because outside of that, I mean, I think they're too much for Boston. I think they'd be too much for Toronto. I think they'd shut down Toronto's scoring. Uh, Tampa, I don't think belongs in that conversation anymore. Trying to think of other possible playoff teams. Like they would smoke the Islanders.
Mm-hmm. Um, but I'm looking at Carolina's roster. Well, I guess projected lineups. All right, this might be dumb. Okay, Their left wings are kind of weak though because you have Svechnikov, and then your second line projected left winger is Bradley Dundu, who I think's good, but I don't think he's a top winger, a top six winger at the moment. However, though, William Carrier is your third line left wing. I think is okay. I think he's more of a fourth liner, but it's all right though. But I do think Carolina is a sneaky good team. You have Rod Brind'Amour. Again, coaching is a huge part. I'm huge in the coaching. If you can coach up guys, I think the team will perform. I mean, you look at the teams that are always good. Like, there's a few teams that it feels like perform on just talent. I'm not going to throw any shots at any teams, Toronto Maple Leafs, but they do have a good roster. Anyways, Carolina's a team where they could bring in some guys that were maybe third liner, fourth liners, maybe almost bottom of the barrel guys, and put them into a role where they can succeed. And Carolina can definitely compete with Florida. Do I think if you go into a seven-game series, do I think Florida comes out on top? Sure, but it might be a tough out. In terms of in the regular season, I think Carolina is a step too slow for Florida. And if we're gonna project off just how I think they'll finish this season, I think Carolina will probably be a good 6, 7, 8 points behind them.
The thing that scares me about the Panthers is, well, like, scares me about how good they are. Let me rephrase that. Is I think they could be up 1-0 in a game and they'll feel completely comfortable being up 1-0. Like, you never want to only be up by a goal for most of the game, but for them, I think that's where they're comfortable. They get ahead early. It's like, okay, now you just got to score on us. Good luck, buddy.
It's
And they could shut down top offenses in the league. I mean, for the most part, they did that throughout the playoffs. I know McDavid got the best of them a bit in the Stanley Cup final, but it's Connor McDavid. He'll figure something out. But like, Florida can just shut down, I think, any team in the league if they really need to with the style they can play.
Florida is an intriguing one because they can, like you said, they can win low scoring games, 1-0, 2-1 games, but then they also can put up 6, 7 goals on you in a heartbeat. Like, there's a reason why this team won the Stanley Cup. We saw it in the playoffs where they won those close games, but they also had games where they blew out their opponent or they won a shootout. They didn't have many of those, but they're able to do it though. And Florida is one of the most complete teams in the entire league, and I think that it's going to be hard for them to not go to the third straight Cup Finals appearance. Now, is it hard to do? Yes. We don't see that happen at all. We saw Tampa do it recently, but before that, though, it's been ages since somebody made it to 3 straight finals. I would have to look it up because I'm kind of curious on what was the last team to do so.
Three
But
straight? I mean, besides Tampa, I couldn't really give you an answer.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Because
Maybe
now
the Red Wings back in the day?
I wonder if the Red Wings or the Avalanche.
I don't know. I don't think the Avalanche went 3 in a row. I think for their 2 cups, like, they didn't make it the years between.
Straight finals.
I want to say maybe New Jersey as well when they had that little dynasty
I
in the
think. I
early
think.
in 2000s.
Let me see. Okay. The last. Can we sort it by season? We can. Okay. Um. So the last team to do 3 straight out before Tampa Bay was the Edmonton Oilers from 1982 to 1985.
Okay, so it's been that long.
Yeah, so we've had 1, 2, 3, 4,
Also, the
5.
Gretzky Oilers.
Yeah, we've had 8 teams since then make it to back to back, but none of which made it to 3 straight outside of Tampa
Yeah,
Bay.
that's hard to do.
It
That's
is
a lot
very
of
hard to
hockey
do.
to constantly be playing at that high of a level.
It's crazy because you're looking at it back then because hockey obviously there weren't as many teams, but between oh my god, dude. So between 1964 to those 1985, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 teams that made it to 3 straight at least. So
Hmm.
you had the Canadians at 5, Blues and Flyers at 3, Canadians at 4, and then Islanders at 5. So kind of
Yeah.
crazy. It doesn't happen anymore. I mean, I'm not surprised though. The
I
parity in
mean,
this
there's
league is
so much.
nuts.
Yeah, I was about to say there's so much parity in the NHL now. I feel like every team's super competitive. Even the bad ones aren't bad, like bad used to be in the NHL.
I think last season there were like 24 teams at 80 plus points or something, 25 teams at 80 plus points, whatever it was.
Well, you know, yeah, the NHL is probably the most competitive it's ever been in its
Oh,
history.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you guys so much for staying to the end of the video. We really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit the subscribe button, drop a like if you enjoyed it. If you want to keep this conversation going, be sure to check out our Discord. The link will be in the description below. Very active. We're trying to build an active community there. Talk hockey 24/7. Also check out our Twitter, Instagram, and TikToks. The links will be down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching.